So what's Art Lounge? It's space for artists, ones aspiring, or those who enjoy it, to come together and share ideas, thoughts, expression, and creation. Whether you're an illustrator, a writer, a musician, sculptor, comedian, dancer, architect, or someone who enjoys art in general, this space is for you. Welcome, everyone, to the Coloring Comics stream. I'm going to be continuing to color John Buscema's Conan the Barbarian using watercolors. It's something that I really enjoy. I really do like using the brush, using the mediums. It's an experience that can't be emulated digitally. Despite digital being faster, it's still really cool to just sit down and focus on this and try to get better at it. So I can be as fast, if not faster, doing it traditionally and just using digital or just like touch-ups and scanning and that sort of thing. So with that said, let me just bring up the chat in case you guys are on. So the goal is going to be to finish up this panel and move on to the next one. And this one looks fun. Conan looks awesome. The beautiful woman in the background is going to be great. It's going to be a cool page. So to clear things up a little bit from the previous stream, if you guys are watching, I was talking about like draw reading. And I think that's just something that's personal for me. Like I like to copy other people's comics as a way of like reading. When you're reading, you're getting inside the mind of the writer, the artist, writer. And you're reading as if though you were the one telling the story, through the mind of the writer, in a sense. Like you're getting into their style of writing, and you're getting into their style of telling a story and developing characters and all that. So you're just it's like a vicarious sort of experience, in a sense. And also, of course, you're immersing yourself in the story and what the story is about and stuff. But it's going through their process, in a sense. And I find that to be the same case when it comes to like drawing. When you're drawing their comics, you're kind of creating the lines that they're creating. You're creating these characters and scenes as if though you're them in that moment. So I think it's kind of fun. It's interesting to visit it in that perspective and just live through the creation of their illustration. The way you live through the creation of a writer and what they're writing. It's just the same for me personally when it comes to like drawing as well. Not to say that it should substitute your own personal work and developing your own stuff, which I highly encourage, but this is just a stepping stone to get there. And as I mentioned before, you're learning so many things simultaneously when you are picking a comic book that you like and you're drawing from it. You know, you're learning the anatomy, obviously, drawing the characters, poses, gestures, emotions in their face, like just looking at him and just noticing all the different lines that create more of an emotion and expression. You're learning that, you're learning camera angles, you know, how to go from scene to scene and change the scene despite it being the same one, change the cameras, having the character in the background, in the foreground, and you know, doing one from the back of the character and having the other one face the viewer, that sort of thing. Just storytelling visually and learning that as well. You're also learning how to ink, you know, controlling that medium, controlling the inks, which are different from pencils. You know, there's that pressure sensitivity that's incredibly important and isn't as forgiving. So you're also learning that, you know, if you're doing the inks as well. Coloring, how to color and what kind of colors look good together. Mixing colors is like more of a traditional thing to worry about. It's not something that you got to do digitally, but it is fun to do, and it does make your pay more attention to color and getting the tones right. You know, it makes you focus and take color into consideration even more so. So there's like all these things that you are learning just by drawing a panel, which is incredibly beneficial if you're into comics. If you want to get into the field of comics, it's a great way to spot all these things, to practice all these things simultaneously. So from pencil to ink to color and all those things that I just listed, all of it just in one take is great practice, you know. And you're getting more and more familiar with the work of the artists themselves. You're paying attention to their drawings as opposed to just flipping through pages, reading a story in a sense. You get more involved, I think. So multiple benefits to drawing from comics. And with that said, let's jump into coloring them. We're using a 0. Find that to be helpful with this size paper. If I used a bigger size paper, I would probably want to use a bigger brush just to cover more areas quickly, get faster in that method. So hot, the water evaporated. So we got just to use this little bottle here and squeeze some. Remember, if you have a cap, always cap the top of the water. If you're using if it's not a squeeze bottle, if it's something else, or if you're cleaning your brushes in a jar, get a lid. The last thing you want to do is have that accidentally get knocked over and spill everywhere, ruining your electronics, ruining your work. Who knows? Just bad experience waiting to happen. Hey, Kai Archer. It's good to see you back. We're tuning in to the Drawing Comics stream. So I remember you said that you are learning to draw. Are you trying to draw from like any comic book at all? Yeah, I think I found the right blue for this. Before I was kind of struggling and mixing the wrong tone. But this one is doing it. It matches what the original looked like. Just more like a sky blue. That's also a good way to do it. If you're using step-by-step images and flowers and animals, that's a good place to start. Have you been drawing for a while, or is this just like the very beginning of the process for you? Yeah, I used a little too much pigment there. It's better to add some water and spread it around. In the original, it is a lot lighter. Uh-oh, seems like there's like a buffering issue. Yeah, just stick to it. I think the most important tip is the dedication. You know, I can give you tips here. Yeah, I can give you tips here, that's for sure. And I can tell you different ways that you can improve. But like the most important is just coming back to it. And if you do it like daily, you'll see drastic improvement in your drawing. Like if you spend like an hour each day at least, even half an hour is great. It's better than nothing. But yeah, if you spend like an hour each day drawing the stuff, even if it's the same thing over and over, you'll eventually get better and more confident. And it'll just be a routine for you that you want to come back to and get excited to like see improvement in. I think you got a little bit of an advantage there, like the stick figure part. It's a really common method of sketching out the figure. Like at the very beginning of drawing the figure, it's best to use a stick figure just to like give yourself some limits to work within. You know, you don't want to start doing like incredible amount of detail and then find out that the figure is like off the page or it's way bigger on one side than the other. So yeah, the stick figure kind of helps to establish like all the boundaries. It's like the good, I guess the good foundation. And, or like the beams. If you're talking about like structures, for example, you start out with the beams, right? And then you lay on the bricks. So like the stick figures are like the beams basically. So before you jump into the detail, you just start out with that, and then you build on top of it. So you're kind of building yourself up to take on more challenges there. Are you just sticking to animals and flowers for now? I would suggest also try tracing. Like, I don't think you're not trying to sell your work. You're not trying to do anything with it other than learn. So if you get yourself, and that's also how I started when I was very young. I wasn't great at it. I was terrible when I was just starting out drawing, but tracing, like getting tracing paper and putting it over like really good light tracing paper and putting it over any image that I liked. Like, I used to love drawing Ninja Turtles or like Batman, and I would just trace that over and over and over again. And Wolverine also, like, I was really into X-Men at the time when I was watching like the animated series for both of them. And I would sit there and draw them over and over and over and over again. Sometimes I would even challenge myself to try and remember what I traced and draw without it, without the reference, and see if I could nail it down. And that really helped. Like, if you're tracing, it kind of helps build your confidence. You're going over the lines, you're learning these things, despite you maybe understanding it visually, you still have to get your hand used to making those lines, get your hand used to making those shapes, and tracing allows you to do that. All you have to do is just make sure you focus and draw as much detail on whatever image that you're tracing as possible, and do it as often as possible. So I'd say, like, stick to drawing whatever it is that you like, but also try and put in tracing into your time frame. Maybe you could start that out as a warm-up to get your hand going, to make it more flexible, and it really does help, for me as well. If I start out, my hand is a little stiff every day, and it's nice to just do like a quick warm-up and just get the hand moving. And then from there, certain lines, certain shapes become easier. Even with this, with brushes as well, it's the same idea. I just start out, I'm a little bit stiff, I focus too much, but then the more I practice with it, the easier and faster I get with it. I don't think tracing paper is even that expensive. And you could probably find it at some like dollar store or whatnot. But yeah, it's a good way to like build your confidence for drawing people and drawing figures or parts of the figure. And what I used to do is I used to trace them, or I used to like trace Looney Tunes as well. Like I got a comic book from the store somewhere. I remember like some drugstore or whatnot, like CVS or Dwayne Reed. And I would sit there and I would copy those because they're kind of close to, what you would draw for like the human figure as well. Like their body parts, they're more simplified. They're easier to draw their cylinder shapes, as opposed to like complex muscles and stuff. And I used to sit and draw those, and then when I completed it, I would hang it up on the wall as like motivation to be like, oh, look at how cool this turned out. And then the next day do the same thing and try to get better and better. But the way you learn the best is just by challenging yourself. So even though you might not like the results, like you're saying, like, oh, I beat myself up for it not looking good, it's not a big deal. It's part of the fun. You know, you're gonna get some disappointments here and there, but mentally, if you train yourself to look at it as a challenge, not so much as like a disappointment, you can motivate yourself to improve. You know, that's also just part of like an artist struggle as well. It's like if you're not getting what you want, you have two choices. You could either cave in and just like put it away, or you could tell yourself like, no, I could do better. And those two choices really become the difference between whether you're going to improve or not. And pretty much anybody. And like, you already have the motivation. You set yourself a goal, and you're telling yourself you want to draw from flowers and animals, and that's great. It's a good place to start. So just keep going with it. Try to add that tracing routine in there as well. See if that helps you. Are you reading any comics at the moment? Do you have like a favorite comic that you're into at the moment? This looks like it needs a little bit more orange. Don't know too much manga. I used to, I would read like Akira. And I had Akira, and I also had, I'm not sure what age you are, but Blade of the Immortal was great. I think it's a bit of an adult book though, so you might want to wait for that one. Hate the Infinity. I gotta check that out. I haven't heard of it. Does it have anything to do with skating? I mean, 14 isn't too bad. Just the content of that book is pretty heavy. I was reading like adult books there, here and there. And if your parents are cool with it, maybe check out some of them, like the first issues. The drawing is really good. It's all black and white. It's very well done. The illustration is very mature. The concept is kind of cool too. The characters are really cool. Well, that's interesting. That should be interesting to read, to see how the writers can turn that into like comic book format, and like how they could read, how can they write the story in a way that's compelling. I'll take a look at it. So is it anime? Yeah, it seems like one of my favorite animes. I'll take a look and see. Have you checked out Cowboy Bebop? I feel like that almost everybody who knows anything about anime has checked out that animation. Oh, you gotta check that out. If you've never heard of Cowboy Bebop, you have to check that one out. It's such a great story. The characters are also very cool, and each episode has something really unique in it. And the animation really is great. I think that's one of the biggest selling points of it, is the animation. That one is great, and also check out, there's two more I could think of. I mean, as far as the animation goes, when it comes to anime, I could think of a bunch of them. But the ones that come to mind right now is Samurai Champloo. That's also a great one. I think it's by the same creators as Cowboy Bebop, so the animation is very good as well. And One Man. And One Man is kind of tough to find. That took a little digging for me, but I ended up finding it online for streaming. It might be available. I haven't checked since. It's been a while. But those are great. The story's fun. The character development is good. The animation is great. trying to remember when I was 14, did I see a lot of these animes already? I think I already saw Akira by then. Have you seen Akira or heard of Akira? Also great. Pretty adult content as well. But incredible animation. I mean, that guy is a legend. Guy created the story and animated it. It's worth every minute. The music is great too. Like, I remember the soundtrack, and actually after watching it, just to remind myself of that experience again. And I've seen that movie so many times. In fact, I'd love to revisit it again. But the Akira soundtrack is also really good. It's a challenging color to mix. I think there's some yellow in there. It looks like they kind of use the same color for the hair. as they did for his pants. Not the orange. Not the orange part, but like the khaki color, I guess. And I don't know if they did that on purpose, or they're just too lazy and they're like, whatever, let's just mix it in. I'm giving it a little bit of a different hue. I do want to still stick to just the original one, just to get, like I was mentioning before, get better at color mixing and nailing down the exact color as I'm seeing. I think that's just going to benefit in the long run when I'm doing other comics, and I need to nail the color there and get faster at mixing them and recognizing the difference. Yeah, back then they had to use like acetate paper, and they would just like lay it over the image and then lay the pencils and the blacks on top of the colors. So like, and they needed to hire a lot of people in order to pump out these like color pages, these acetate color pages, because they didn't have the technology back then. These are like comics in like the 40s and 50s and 60s. So they didn't have like the machines capable of doing it, and a lot of people were just doing it manually. So they would just like hire people off the street, and there was no real skill set required. So sometimes people would just like come in, mix the colors probably, or use the ones that were available and move on to the next one so that they could pump out more and get paid more. So I think there were some shortcuts taken here and there, but I could be wrong. There's another artist actually that I've seen who was slightly colorblind, and he produced some interesting work with colors. And like, he was, despite not being able to see the exact tone, he was able to mix the colors in ways that the results would still be cool. And I think that's just like one of the benefits of art in general, is like, as long as you're playing with the mediums, as long as you're like mixing the colors and such, there isn't really like a limit to it, It's so much creativity out there. Skin colors could vary. It doesn't necessarily have to be exact as it is. It seems like the top of his hat is also the same color as his tunic. I don't know if it's a tunic, I guess. Oh no, and bled into it. Too much water. Rag to the rescue. Have you tried brushes at all? Or like watercolor or any of that stuff? I'm guessing you're practicing mainly with pencil. I was about to ask you, how long have you been drawing? Has it been just like a couple of weeks or a month? Oh, you just started. Yeah, I highly recommend you pick up some tracing paper. I think that's also going to motivate you a lot, especially if you just started drawing. You know, you're going to get to see some cool results for putting in some time, and like I was saying, it'll drastically help you improve your drawings in the long run. If you just add that as like a routine, like half hour, just tracing a bunch of stuff over and over, and then you can move on to like challenging yourself to do things by like copying and drawing animals and flowers and such. You could even like pick a page from your favorite anime or manga, not anime, manga, and just trace that. Try to like get down as much detail on each panel as possible, and try to find yourself like tracing paper that's really transparent. Sometimes some of them might be a little too thick. You might not be able to see the details. So if you do that, and then you just sit down and have like a lamp shine on it so that you could see through even better, it'll help you. think I'm pretty much done with this panel. And in fact, maybe the entire page. Let's just make sure, looking back and forth between the reference and my work to see if there's a difference. Something I did not cover. Yeah, I think this is it. Granted, some colors didn't exactly turn out to be how I wanted them to. And I think the winner of this panel is, of all these panels, is this panel right here and how his arm turned out. I really liked it. I like how the colors kind of bled out and turned this tone difference going from blue into purple. That turned out pretty cool. And then the rest of these, just in general, it kind of turned out well. The other ones, I could have done better. I could say that for sure. But practice makes perfect, right? So next time, since we are coming to the end of the stream, I will be working on this comic panel and the rest of these. That should be fun. I really enjoy how this came out. I like how Conan looks there. And the beautiful woman in the background. It's going to be pretty cool. And Kai Archer, if you want to get some drawing tips, talk about some of the things that you're experiencing or having a hard time, you could join me at 3 o'clock tomorrow. If you're around at 3 p.m., I am going to be streaming Drawing Basics, where I'll just be giving you guys tips on how to improve, just talking about different techniques and methods and ways to learn drawing. But otherwise, you can always tune back into the channel and watch the stream. Yeah, that wraps it up. Thanks for joining, Kai Archer. Thanks for joining everybody. The stream for the night, and I will see you soon.